What if I told you that the Bahrain Test showed that the 2025 season could be the most unpredictable in years? But wait, because the data that revealed this is not what you imagine. Before I tell you which team delivered the biggest shock, tell me in the comments. Who do you think is stronger for the first race? Because what happened in Bahrain could have changed the order of the grid. Will it be Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren or Mercedes? The first day of testing in Bahrain was going on as normal until, suddenly, a power cut left the entire paddock in an unprecedented situation. For more than an hour, the teams were completely inactive, with no live telemetry, no real-time simulations and with uncertainty that tested their ability to react. These types of incidents are extremely rare in modern Formula One. The circuit infrastructure is designed to avoid interruptions of this type, with backup systems that should be activated within seconds. But in this case, the interruption was long enough to disrupt testing programs and force each team to adapt to a new scenario. McLaren and Red Bull were the first to reset their systems, managing to reactivate their telemetry in just 12 minutes. This time is key because in a pre-season test every minute counts. Meanwhile, teams like Haas and Sauber took more than twice as long, which showed differences in contingency protocols and operational response capacity. The FIA decided to extend the session to make up for some of the lost time, but the damage was already done. Some teams had to compress their test program and discard long-run simulations, something that will directly affect preparation for the first race. Beyond the interruption itself, the blackout revealed crucial details about the management capacity of each team. McLaren not only managed to recover quickly, but even used the time to analyze static data and adjust parameters in real time. Red Bull, meanwhile, focused on ensuring all cooling systems were operational again before returning to the track. On the other hand, teams such as Haas and Sauber faced difficulties restarting certain electronic modules, which delayed their return to the track and reduced their effective testing time. These types of problems may seem minor in pre-season, but on a Grand Prix weekend they could be the difference between a solid qualifying and an early exit in Q1. Another key point was tire temperature. During the blackout, some cars were immobilized in the pit lane with the compounds exposed to the air without heaters. This altered the way in which teams were able to evaluate tire degradation and performance on long runs. On a general level, this unexpected incident left a clear lesson. In a season where every detail can make the difference, the ability to react and operational adaptation will be as important as pure speed on track. Ferrari arrived at the Bahrain Test with a bold technical proposal for its new car, the SF25. The Italian team opted for a significant structural change to its chassis, lengthening it by 25 mm to optimize weight distribution and improve stability in both fast corners and more technical sectors. This redesign responds to the understeer problems that affected the SF24 last season, a key aspect that limited the team's performance on certain circuits. But modifying the architecture of the car carries risks. A longer chassis can improve stability at high speed, but it can also compromise agility in tight corners and on urban layouts where the responsiveness of the front end is crucial. The question is whether Ferrari has managed to find a balance between the two factors or whether this change will work against it in certain scenarios. Another key aspect is the pull rod suspension on the front axle, a solution that Ferrari has not used for more than a decade. This design allows for better control of the airflow under the car, optimizing ground effect, but it also requires extremely precise mechanical synchronization. If engineers fail to correctly calibrate the interaction between the suspension system and aerodynamics, the SF25 could suffer traction problems in certain types of cornering. The compact gearbox is another innovative element of this design. Ferrari has reduced the size of the assembly to reduce aerodynamic drag and allow for a narrower rear end. This solution can bring benefits in terms of efficiency on straights and in managing airflow to the diffuser, but it also adds a challenge: reliability. A more compact transmission system means less space for heat dissipation, and in high-temperature conditions such as those in Bahrain, any failure in this area could lead to performance problems. The SF25 showed a good level of competitiveness in initial testing, but the real challenge will be to transfer those feelings to a race weekend. Ferrari seems to have corrected some of its weaknesses from last year, but it is still too early to determine whether this evolution has been enough to challenge Red Bull and other title contenders. The key will be how the team manages to maximize the potential of this new design without compromising the reliability and versatility of the car on different types of circuits. Mercedes introduced an unusual development strategy at the Bahrain Test, testing two different configurations of the W16's front end. In the first round of testing, the team used a traditional tapered nose design, similar to the previous season, optimized to maximize aerodynamic efficiency on straights and high-speed corners. However, later in the day, they introduced a second version with a stepped structure and lateral flow channels, a solution that could modify the distribution of air to the side pods and floor of the car. This approach suggests that Mercedes has not yet fully defined the aerodynamic direction it will follow for the season. While other teams have consolidated concepts evolved from previous years, the German team remains in a phase of experimentation, evaluating which of these configurations offers the best balance between downforce and efficiency on straights. The fact that Mercedes is testing two different noses not only implies a technical challenge, but also indicates that the team is considering different scenarios for its development. The tapered design allows for greater stability in fast corners and less aerodynamic drag, while the stepped version, by redirecting the airflow more aggressively, could improve diffuser efficiency and downforce at the rear. In terms of on-track performance, George Russell showed that the W16 has a good foundation by setting the second fastest time of the day, completing a high number of laps without apparent mechanical problems. However, Kimi Antonelli's case was different. His performance on long runs was inconsistent, suggesting that Mercedes is still working on the balance of the car and the transition between both nose configurations. Another key point in the development of the W16 is the integration of the new front suspension system, designed to improve response in low-speed corners without compromising stability on fast circuits. This system will work differently depending on the nose configuration that Mercedes ultimately chooses, so decision-making in this area will be crucial for the rest of the pre-season. Unlike previous years, where Mercedes opted for more radical concepts such as the side pod-less design, this time they seem to have opted for a more flexible strategy. The fact that they are testing two different configurations suggests that they are open to adapting depending on the circuits or how the competition evolves. The big question is whether this phase of experimentation will take them to a point advantage when the season starts, or if it will cost them time in the fight against Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren, teams that have opted for more defined philosophies. The key will be how quickly they can collect data, make decisions and consolidate an aerodynamic package that allows them to be competitive from the first race. McLaren surprised in the Bahrain tests not only by setting the best time with Lando Norris, but by implementing an aerodynamic innovation that could redefine the way in which overtaking and efficiency are managed in the race. The key to the MCL40 is its new adjustable flap system on the rear wing, a mechanism designed to modify the aerodynamic load in real time without depending exclusively on the DRS. This system works in a similar way to traditional DRS, but with one crucial difference. Rather than simply opening a slot to reduce drag on straights, the flaps can change angle in a controlled manner depending on the phase of the lap the car is in. In theory, this would allow McLaren to optimize the car's efficiency at all times, reducing drag on long straights and increasing downforce in critical corners without compromising stability. The advantage of this technology is clear. A rear wing that can modify its incidence in real time could offer a perfect balance between top speed and cornering stability, something that has traditionally been a challenge in modern Formula One. On circuits with long straights and high-speed corners, such a system could make the difference to McLaren's performance compared to its rivals. But there is one key area that could become an issue: reliability. Any system that relies on additional moving components adds mechanical complexity and increases the risk of failure. In high-temperature conditions like those in Bahrain, teams often face challenges in managing overheating hydraulic systems, and the addition of adjustable flaps means the team will need to ensure the mechanism operates smoothly throughout an entire race. Another factor to consider is the impact this design will have on tire management. By varying downforce at different stages of the lap, it could result in a less even temperature distribution across the compounds, which can be beneficial or detrimental depending on the circuit and race strategy. If McLaren can find an optimal balance in this regard, it could benefit from lower degradation compared to its rivals. Beyond this innovation, the MCL40 also showed improvements in other key areas. Braking stability appears to have improved compared to its predecessor, and the car performed well in high downforce sections. However, the question remains whether this advantage in testing will translate into consistency throughout the season. McLaren have historically had promising starts to campaigns in the modern era, but have often been left behind by the evolution of their rivals. In this case, the key will be to see if the MCL40 can remain competitive once teams begin to introduce improvements throughout the year. If this adjustable flap technology proves effective and reliable, it could be one of the most significant innovations of the season. But if McLaren fail to make it work in all race conditions, they could find themselves with a difficult concept to develop in the long term. The first race in Bahrain will be the real test to determine whether McLaren has taken the definitive step towards the fight for victories or whether this innovation still needs fine-tuning before becoming a real advantage in the fight for the championship. Red Bull arrived at the Bahrain Test with the RB21, a car that maintains the essence of the dominant RB20 but with a series of refined tweaks to consolidate its advantage. Unlike teams such as Ferrari and Mercedes, which have introduced significant structural changes to their designs, Red Bull's approach has been a meticulous evolution of a proven concept. The philosophy behind this decision is clear. Rather than seeking a risky revolution, they have refined every aspect of the car to make it even more efficient and difficult to beat. One of the most important changes to the RB21 is to the step diffuser. This modification allows for improved acceleration on corner exits, optimizing airflow and maximizing ground effect. In a championship where stability in fast corners is key, this improvement could represent a significant advantage on circuits with high downforce. Red Bull has also maintained its characteristic concept of narrow side pods with V-shaped air ducts, a design that has proven to be highly efficient in managing aerodynamic flow. At the Bahrain tests, this configuration showed signs of having been further refined, with adjustments to the rear of the car allowing for greater efficiency in generating downforce without compromising top speed. Christian Horner made it clear what the team's priority is for 2025. Consolidating the energy efficiency of the hybrid system. In a context where regulations continue to limit engine development, Red Bull has put the focus on energy recovery and management. Optimizing the delivery of electric power at key moments of acceleration could make the difference in wheel-to-wheel duels and in managing fuel consumption during the most demanding races. Another aspect to consider is the flexibility of the RB21's design. Being a highly optimized evolution of its predecessor, Red Bull may have less room for maneuver to make radical adjustments throughout the season. While they have perfected their aerodynamic concept, the big question is whether this approach will allow them to continue to dominate when their rivals begin to introduce aggressive improvements to their cars. The performance in pre-season testing also left some question marks. Max Verstappen finished third on the timesheets, 0.244 seconds behind Lando Norris, suggesting McLaren may have made a significant leap forward in terms of performance. While preseason times do not always reflect the true potential of each team, the gap was enough to raise questions about whether Red Bull will continue to have the same advantage as in previous seasons. Another key point in the evaluation of the RB21 will be its behavior in high-temperature conditions and tire degradation. In past seasons, Red Bull has stood out for its ability to maintain consistent performance throughout a stint, but with the introduction of new, stiffer compounds by Pirelli, it will be crucial to see whether the RB21 setup allows it to maintain that level of consistency. Red Bull's approach for 2025 is clear. Not to take any risks with radical changes, but to consolidate and refine a car that has already proven to be the best on the grid. The big question is whether this evolution will be enough to maintain their dominance or whether the aggressiveness of teams like McLaren and Ferrari could threaten their position at the top. Testing has given signs that the competition has come closer, but the first race of the season will be the real stage where it will be seen whether Red Bull remains in control or whether the margin of superiority has been significantly reduced. Pre-season testing in Bahrain has left one clear conclusion: the fight for the 2025 championship could be much closer than expected. For the first time in several years, times and performance on track show that Red Bull is not guaranteed an absolute advantage. McLaren has taken a step forward with an aerodynamic innovation that could change the balance of the grid. Ferrari has opted for a structural transformation in its car to correct its weaknesses, and Mercedes is still in a phase of experimentation with different configurations in search of the best performance. Although Red Bull has opted for a strategic evolution, the data suggests that the gap with its rivals could have been reduced. Max Verstappen finished third on the combined times, behind McLaren and Mercedes, indicating that the competition has strengthened. The big question is whether the Austrian team has managed to maintain enough of a gap to continue dominating or whether its rivals have found the key to challenge its supremacy. The test has also made it clear that operational management will be a crucial factor in the season. Teams such as McLaren and Red Bull managed to react quickly to the blackout that interrupted the session, while others such as Haas and Sauber showed vulnerabilities in their contingency protocols. The ability to adapt in unexpected situations will be as important as speed on the track. Beyond times and technical innovations, what has become clear is that no team can afford a margin of error. The season will be a constant battle to find the perfect balance between speed, reliability, and continuous evolution. The first Grand Prix will determine whether the trends seen in testing continue or whether the teams manage to find quick solutions to correct any weak points. Now the question is clear. Who do you think will be stronger for the first race? Leave your opinion in the comments and share your analysis of what we have seen in the tests. If you want to follow the evolution of each team closely and not miss any details of the start of the season, subscribe and activate notifications. In the next analysis, we will delve into how each team has prepared its strategy for the first race and what factors can make the difference at the start of the championship.